Yes, your thesis is great. I mean, the topic's great. It's very interesting, and the deepfakes are impressive. I mean, it raises a great question. What will become our society if we cannot make the difference between reality and fake anymore?
Whoa, what did I just see? Did you make that?
Yeah. I made it using Deepface Lab, which is an open source code accessible online. So I just use it to swap Emma Watson's face on mine.
Wow, I am blown away, Esper, by that. Okay, before we get into the details, let's talk a little bit about you. So, hello everybody, welcome to episode number 1 of Conversations with Interesting People. My first guest today, on this show is Esper Bilbin, or as her LinkedIn name probably goes, Garance Caze, right? So Esper came from a hospitality background, and now she's doing data science and deepfake and artificial intelligence. Fascinating journey. So, Esper, tell us how you managed to do all of this in such, short time.
Great question. So quickly, as you said, I come from a hospitality background. And after my bachelor, I decided to switch to data science and artificial intelligence. So how did I manage to do that? I think you need to work, but it's easier when you're passionate, right? So today I'm going to share with you about deepfakes, and it's a very interesting topic. So I hope you're going to like it.
So, I've known you for a while, and I know you did this for your thesis at EM Lyon, right? So why this specific topic for your thesis, and what were your learnings from it?
Knowing I would have to spend lots of hours working on the topic, I decided to choose one topic in which I had no knowledge to actually learn something, and a topic that could be interesting for anybody, like even person who don't know anything about AI and this kind of topics, right? So that's how I came up with deepfake. It's a technology enabled by AI, which gives you the ability to replace someone's face with someone else's likeness on a picture or a video.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. So, I mean, I know that deepfakes have been around for a while now, right? Can you talk about the origin? Like, when did deepfake videos start?
Yeah, so that's actually pretty interesting. Deepfake technology is not completely new. Components of how it works exist for decades. But what we call deepfake started very recently. So actually in December 2017, a Reddit user whose username was deepfakes released different AI engineered pornographic videos of the actress Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, those videos went viral, and people started to call this kind of video deepfakes because of the name of the user, right?
It's named after the Reddit user who called himself deepfake.
Exactly, and that's pretty. The way you can check that it actually was named because of that is that if you go on Google Trend and you look for the trend about deepfake research online, it started at the same time the guy revealed the videos.
I see.
There is the name of the person who made it popular, but it's also a very interesting name because it actually makes sense. Indeed, deepfake comes from the word deep from deep learning and fake from fake.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, deep learning is a subdivision of machine learning. It's used mostly in decision making, and it works similarly to the human brain. So basically, there's a network capable of learning from decision without human supervision.
Okay, it sounds a little bit complicated. Maybe you can break it down for our users and explain how this thing works, maybe?
Yes, exactly. So deep learning is associated to what we call the encoder-decoder method. So as you can see on this sketch, when you give a picture of a person to an encoder, it removes all the details from the face to keep only the latent face of that person. So if I take an example, if you take my face, here I'm smiling, so we will remove everything, my skin texture, the color of my eyes, my hair, and everything, and we'll just keep the fact that I'm smiling and like where my eyes looks and things like that, right? And then the decoder will learn how to reproduce all the details of my face from that latent face, right?
I see.
Now, if you apply this method to deepfake, you simply need to use the wrong decoder on the wrong latent face. So you will recreate the details of person A on the latent face of person B, or the opposite. And this will make, for example, person B smile, laugh, and talk exactly like person A.
Okay, okay, okay.
So this was the first method to actually build deepfake. Now there's another method which is called GAN. So GAN is Generative Adversarial Networks, and it actually very good to enhance the results. So basically the way it works, there's a generator and the discriminator. So as you can see on the sketch, the generator creates an image from random noise. So it creates an image from nothing. And then the discriminator compares the image to the original one. All right.
I see.
Then it gives the generator a feedback. So for example, what you did is very good. Of course, it doesn't work like this. It won't say numbers, but it gives a feedback. And then the generators with the feedback try to improve and try to, you know, like build something that is closer from the original every time.
I see.
And
Much
this is how
better.
it improves until you actually get a really
Okay.
a really realistic result.
I think I've started to understand a little bit maybe what you know what deepfakes are and how it works. So you know I'm very curious to know something, Jesper. You know around so the 2020 elections just took place, right? And there was so much paranoia and speculation prior to the elections, you know, about how both sides of the campaign, you know, the Republicans and Democrats would be using you know a lot of deepfake technology maybe to target each other. And you know, of course, because of you know all these allegations that maybe Russia was involved in the 2016 election, there was all this conjecture that, you know, the Republicans would again use it. So I mean, did you study that? Did you come across any of that during your research?
Yeah, and actually it's actually very interesting that we talk about it because I actually wrote my thesis during the elections. So I had the time to check about that. And the first, you need to know that the first concern, you know, regarding deepfakes when it started to, you know, become very popular and famous and trendy, was of course the American election of 2020. So experts and organizations were very worried that deepfake would impact the elections and sway the elections. So I was actually curious to see the actual impact of deepfake on the results. So I went on Sensity AI. It's a website that is specialized in audiovisual threats targeting you know, celebrities and personalities. And I went to check there the threats for each candidate, so for both Biden and Trump. And as you can see on this, Trump is more targeting by deepfake than Biden. But both are considered very high risk of being targeted. But that's interesting to see. It would have been expected differently that you know, Biden would have been probably more targeted with deepfakes than Trump. And it's like the results are here. It seems like Trump was more targeted by deepfake.
So we don't know whether these were positive aims or positive shots or negative shots, do we?
So honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure because I think so because the website talks about threats, audiovisual threats. So I believe.
I see. It implies sure. Negative stuff.
Yeah. Okay. But I can't tell for sure.
Okay, I see. Very interesting. So, I mean, you know, like we said, you came from a hospitality background and now you're making all of these, you know, deep fake videos and all of that stuff. How accessible is this technology? I mean, what do you need in terms of hardware, software, skill sets? Can you talk a little bit about that maybe?
Yeah, and that's a good question because when it comes to technology, it's often not good nor bad, but what makes the technology dangerous is the user intention. So of course, the more accessible it is, the more dangerous it is. So that's the reason why I studied the accessibility in my thesis. So I compared different deepfake tools as well as voice cloning tools, because of course, when you make a video, you need to have, you know, like the image, but of course the sound as well. Yeah. So overall, I will say that the technology is already rather accessible. It's not mainstream, of course. And the one you saw at the beginning is not perfect, of course, because you can still see some, you know, like part of the face. But that's because I chose a model that actually had a fringe. So when I wanted, you know, to adjust it to my face, it always cut at the forehead. So that's the reason why. But you can already see that the result is kind of scary. So there are some tools that require us to run on specific hardware. So this makes it a little less accessible. That's the tool I use, you know, for the one we saw at the beginning. Sure. But there's also Google Collabs that you can use. It takes 10 minutes. It takes only one picture, and it uses transfer learning to actually make the deepfake. So that's not exactly deepfake. That's more something like you're driving. We call it driving motion technology. So you only need one picture of a person to make him or her say whatever you want. Yeah, actually, have you seen this deepfake of Mona Lisa? Mona Lisa smiling, talking, and
I may
that's
have,
the
I'm not
driving
sure.
motion.
Okay. I see what you're
So
saying. Where the
basically you
lips
take
are
a video
moving.
of yourself. Yeah, exactly. So the way it works is that you make a video of yourself and then you use all the movement of your face to drive this motion on the picture. So that's how you can make a painting talk, for example. So yeah, so as you can see, there are many different, like tools. I would say they are rather accessible because they don't require a lot of coding skills. They don't require a lot of hardware, and most of them are free. So it's not mainstream yet because you need to look for them, but it's already accessible for those who want to check for it.
So basically you're saying one picture, some, access to tools like, Deep Face Lab and, stuff like that, softwares which already exist, and not really a whole lot of skill set required to make deep fakes.
Yeah. So
that
for Deep Face Lab, you will need a video of the person because you will need lots of pictures of that person. But for the Google Colab,
Google Colab,
the one with driving motion, you only need one picture.
Wow. That brings me to my next question. If it's so accessible, not too much in terms of hardware, software, skill set, what are the threats? Because if anyone and everyone can make deep fakes, where do we go from here then? What are the threats?
So basically, there are two types of threats. So direct threats, which are the ones that are more obvious, let's say, and indirect threats. So the first direct threats is the mass manipulation and political threat. We already talked about that one. The main concern is fabricated private remarks. So it's a type of content that facially depicts a public figure making, damaging content behind the scene. So basically, if you see, for example, I don't know, Biden saying, "Oh, I lied to all the Americans" to his wife, and then you spread that online, people will be like, "What?" The guy, So that's exactly that kind of content people are worried about.
Sure.
It will be the same, for example, if you take a deep fake of a CEO telling his wife or his friends that his company was going bankrupt. It will probably lead to a movement of panic and, of course,
I see what you're saying.
In the stock market. So
wow.
Yeah, so this is the main threat. Let's say we'll call it mass manipulation, political threat. But actually, it's more a threat than a reality because so far, and it's very sad, but citizens are the one who are bullied by the fake.
Really?
So indeed, the second threat is pornography. Yeah.
Oh.
Pornography and non-consented sex content. Currently, I think it's over 95% of the deepfakes online are pornographic deepfakes of women.
Really?
Most of them non-consented.
Oh.
And if it's used to mainly target celebrities, the fact that it requires less and less picture of a person to actually make a deepfake makes it easier to target, random people.
Wow. Wow.
Of course, yeah. Tomorrow you only need few pictures of your neighbor to do whatever you want, or your colleague, so that makes the technology very dangerous. It's mainly used for two types of vicious purposes. So the first one is revenge porn. So it's the practice of sharing online fake, real content, pornographic content of a person for revenge. And the second one is used to silence women, powerful women. So we'll take an example. There was this journalist in India. She was about to reveal evidence of corruption in her country. And suddenly, from nowhere, a fake sex tape of her was revealed, and she had to run away to hide and avoid all the sexual harassment.
Wow!
So, yeah,
it's like a strong arm tactic.
Yeah, you
bully someone into silence.
Exactly.
I see.
A sad example of that is Deep Nude. So Deep Nude was an app using deepfake to undress women, and specifically women. And it was banned last year. But the thing is, recently, a similar tool appeared in India, and it's now widely used to harass women, of course, and to create a catfish account. So catfish accounts are, made by cyber criminals, and they are accounts that you can find, for example, on Instagram or Facebook, with a very sexy woman, in the picture was like this, with her boobs and stuff. And they're used to ensnare men into committing acts that they would regret later, and that will set them up for blackmail.
Like maybe ask them for, nude pictures of the men, which the men would send, and then they'd get blackmailed by these women.
Exactly. So this leads us actually to the third direct threat, which is scams and fraud.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is cybercrime and extortion, because you blackmail the person. Another famous one is identity theft, of course, and imposter scams. So it's when you steal someone's identity and impersonate a person to induce fraudulent payment or make someone do something that they wouldn't do, usually. So it is often combined with phishing. So phishing is a mix between voice cloning and phishing.
Okay. I'll have to expand my vocabulary. I mean, learning all these things, catfishing and vishing, and I have no idea what any of this is.
Okay, so vishing is basically a mix of voice cloning and phishing. So phishing, when you receive an email telling you to, do something, for example, give your new email address and your new card, credit card number and stuff. Now you combine that with voice cloning. So basically it's on the phone.
Wow.
And you have someone on the phone which have, like the voice of someone
It just becomes more believable then.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So now imagine your grandma calling you and say, I really need some money. I have some problem. And it's your grandma's voice, it's her number. So you will just say, yeah, why not? Like I can give you some money, whatever. But
are there any real examples of such a thing having happened?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the examples occurred when an ultra-realistic vishing of the German leader of the company asked the leader of the English branch to urgently transfer some money. I think it was more than 200,000 euros to a Hungarian subcontractor. But of course, it was a scam. And by the time they found out, it was too late.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it was so realistic that the English leader couldn't tell, like it wasn't the German one.
I see. You mentioned, I think at the beginning of this conversation, direct threats, and I think these are all direct threats. That makes me wonder, what are indirect threats, and are there any indirect threats to, deepfakes?
Yeah, of course. So the first one is the emergence of a new form of skepticism. There already are people who don't believe human made it to the moon. And I believe if we start questioning everything, of course it will be chaos,
Yeah, you'll go crazy as humans, as a society. There'll be no consensus around anything then.
Exactly. So there's a very good example of that. So recently in Gabon, the president did not make any appearance for a while. And at some point, rumors started that, he was probably dead. And to stop the rumors, the government said that the president was ailing and, he needed rest and he needed to stay away from the media for a while. And but then the New Year's Eve came, and instead of giving an actual speech, the president made a video, to say, like Happy New Year to everybody and stuff.
Yeah.
But instead of crushing the rumors, it boosted them because people thought the video was deepfake and that the president was dead. And so this went as far as a coup.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it failed, but still, this like really, really presents the impact of skepticism on society,
I see. So people are basically weaponizing, deepfakes then.
So weaponizing defect is another threat. It's basically when you use deepfake to discredit an evidence. So for example, on a trial, imagine there's a video of you committing, a crime. And then during the trial, you just say, that's not me. That's a deepfake.
Didn't something similar happen recently with Prince Andrews? This whole, Epstein, Prince Andrews scandal?
Yeah, exactly. So recently, Prince Andrew, was accused of abusing underage Virginia Roberts.
Okay.
So the accusation part used that picture, so you can see it, as an evidence of their relation, because you can see he's holding her and everything. Yeah. But the prince's lawyers denied it. They discredited the picture, saying that it was forged, deepfaked, and not an authentic picture. So we don't have the end of the story yet, but this shows, of course, it's an evidence that if you start using deepfake to discredit everything that the victim says,
right?
It's like using the fake news card, like lawsuit will be impacted, it's giving more work for the victim's side, prove it's a real evidence, and more impunity for the criminal side. So is this really what we want for a society?
I see what you're saying. Already, it's so hard to sort of, convict criminals, and then you bring in the deepfake element where they can just question all the evidence. what do you do from there then? Like
exactly.
what I'm trying to ask is, what are the solutions? Like, is there a solution to fighting deep fakes, or are we doomed?
Okay, so there are many different kind of solutions. We'll say there are 4 kinds of solutions. So let's divide them. The first one is technical solution.
Okay.
So technical solution. So there are many different ones, potential technical solutions. So for example, there are electronic waterproof, there are reverse search technology, but the biggest trend right now is to develop and invest in deepfake detection tools.
Okay.
So basically, the idea is to train algorithm to predict whether a video or a picture is genuine or if it's a deepfake. Okay.
I see.
It often relies on eyes or lips incoherent movement.
Yeah.
So the problem with detection is that every time it's like virus and antivirus. Every time you find a way to detect them, the technology evolves to bypass the detection, right?
Yeah.
So it happened before. Because at some point, experts found out that deepfakes were not blinking, because we were only using pictures of people who were, smiling and, having their eyes wide open, right?
Right.
So at some point they found out and they just, tell everyone, yeah, we know how to detect deepfakes because they're not blinking. And of course, it only took a few days before deepfake started to blink. So right now, the latest detection systems works on specific head movement, and we believe that they are almost impossible for GANs to reproduce.
Okay.
But experts think that eventually, one day, the detection system will be outdated.
I see.
So,
okay.
There's another great idea in terms of technology. So the idea is to prevent the making of deepfake. So instead of, having a deepfake and then say, is it a deepfake or it's not? Let's prevent deepfake from being created.
Nip it in the bud. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So the recent studies are describing what we call adversarial attacks.
Okay.
So basically, let's make it very simple, all right? So the idea behind this technique is to degrade an original content. So you take a picture and you degrade the quality in a way that is almost impossible to see for the human eye. But for the GAN, the technology I've talked about before, when it will try to reproduce the face, it will be almost impossible because the quality would be too bad for the technology to reproduce it. You see?
I see what you're saying, but tell me something, Esper. I mean, I understand you're saying that technology is sort of the cure for the problem, but is technology sufficient? What about in terms of policies and regulations, government intervention? Social media companies, can they do something in terms of policies on their platforms?
Yeah, so exactly. That leads us to the second kind of potential solution. Of course, technology will not be enough. Okay, so the second kind of solution is, of course, policies and regulations. So far, both in Europe and in the United States, we don't have federal laws regarding deepfake. So there are some, states and countries that have taken initiative.
Okay.
But so far, citizens can only rely on laws regarding privacy, digital identity theft, or defamation to defend themselves. So there has been some initiative, but the decision so far is still on hold. So for some experts, Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act is responsible of the circulation of deepfake on social media.
Yeah. Well, so I think, isn't that what Section 230 is? It sort of gives immunity to tech platforms, and they're not held responsible for anything that goes on their platforms, right?
That's exactly that. Basically, for example, Facebook or Twitter, they're not responsible for the content shared by third parties on their platform. All right. So of course, according to some experts, this removes all the liability of social media regarding what is posted on their website. And of course, therefore, for them, it explains why we can find so many harmful content and fake news online. So, however, we can see that social media have started to take action against what they consider fake news. They have taken, new policies. They have started to ban or label deepfake, but also fake news, while investing in deepfake detection. But expert agrees that they should invest more in moderation and moderators, because you can have a detection tool that tells you that this is a deepfake, but only for now, only a human is able to tell. So this is a parody. This is fun. This is not, like fake news, and this is porn. This is not okay.
This is vulnerable to human biases, then, right? Because if the moderator has certain biases, or maybe he just poor detection at their level, then what happens?
So exactly. Again, here we have the question of censorship and abuse of the fake news card. An obvious example right now is the censorship used around all the vaccine debate and the COVID situation.
Yeah, yeah.
So many people would just raise question about the context and about their personal experience, regarding how the situation, COVID situation was dealt, were automatically censored. And as their speech was not going in the same direction than the official speech, they were censored. And I think it's kind of scary, because if we're only exposed to one kind of content and only one side of the story, how can we be objective? So I'm not saying they're right, they're wrong. I'm just saying sometimes social media, for example, we had in France this professor who was beheaded, and the video lasts online for a few hours. But some people would say bad things about, vaccine, for example. In a few minutes, the video disappear. How come?
I see what you're saying. So, Esper, tell me something. Yes, you're saying that tech platforms can do a lot. Technology can help. Government regulation can help. Ultimately, it's us people using these social media platforms, right? So, at a human level, at a moral level, we have an obligation. We have a responsibility also, I think, to not share, not engage in sharing deep fakes and things like that. Don't you think there's some responsibility that we also have?
So I think you're very smart, Pratik, because this is actually the third solution I was going to talk about, the power of viewers and users. So basically, the first thing is imagine there's a deepfake of you online. You're the best person to say this is a deepfake. I haven't done that, So it should be easy. It should be made easy for you to report, deepfake about yourself.
Sure.
The second thing is, of course, viewers have the power to either share content because they think it's great content, or to report the content, say, hey, this one, I'm not sure, seems very weird.
Right.
So how to educate and tell people, and help people find out what they should do or not.
Right.
So this is exactly the idea of the First Draft organization, which is an organization aiming at protecting communities from misinformation.
Okay.
And they have created a very smart, a very smart sentence, which is don't follow the herd, think sheep before you share.
Really?
And I think it's very smart because it's an approach that invites us to check all of the aspects of sheep before sharing. So sheep stands for source, history, evidence, emotion, and pictures.
Wow.
And if you start, checking the source of the content, the history of what they usually post, what are the evidence of what is said in the video, all the emotion and the picture used, you may have an idea whether a news is, real or fake. So this, of course, doesn't only work for deepfake. It works for all kind of, fake media. But I think it's actually very smart because if we start educating people, this might, help, taking the right decision before sharing.
Tell me something, Esper. Okay, fine. People will do their stuff maybe to, let's say, be smarter and prudent about stuff like this. Ultimately, you said it's become, this technology is so accessible. Anyone can use Colab, FaceLab, and all of that stuff to make stuff like this. Do you think that these technology platforms, from an ethical standpoint, maybe they should not produce technology like that, which makes it so accessible, in the sense, why give people the opportunity to create deep fakes? I mean, don't you think, you understand? Does my question make sense?
Yeah. So, of course, it actually makes really sense. So, there's the founder of the Thoughtful Technology Project. His name is Ovadia.
Okay.
And he believes that every stakeholders around the technology should consider ethical issues. All right. So according to him, there are things that can be done to make the technology safer. So the first idea, of course, is to limit the use of the technology and what can be done with it. So as you said, why do we give people, the possibility to actually use the fake, right?
Yeah.
So we'll take the example of Lyrebird. So it's a voice cloning system. And this system is actually very well designed because you can't use it to steal someone's voice without his permission, because the way it's designed, you need to read few specific sentences to clone your voice. All right.
I see.
So he will send you, for example, 30 different sentences, and you have to read all of them so that the machine can learn to reproduce your voice. Okay. And that makes it more difficult to steal someone else's voice, because of course you will need to have this person saying all these sentences, reading all these sentences to actually be able to reproduce the voice. So that's a very smart design that makes it more difficult to clone someone else's voice. And I think it is ethical because you can do it with the permission of the person, and you can't do it, to whatever you want with it.
Right.
The second idea of ADI is to design your tool to avoid malicious usage. So, for example, you could be hiding your code first because it will enable people to steal it to do whatever they want to do with it. You can add visible and invisible tag, waterproof, to say it's a fake. And of course, I think it's a very smart idea to collaborate with the detection systems to ensure that all your creations would be easily detectable,
I see.
So the final advice to that is for all public actors to avoid promoting, distributing, and funding irresponsible tools, right? This will encourage responsible tools and company, and of course, positive usage of the technology.
I like how we're sort of moving towards a positive discussion now, where you're saying that, there are tools and technologies and ways to sort of prevent deepfakes from, let's say, having a really negative impact. But do deepfakes in any scenario have any positive impact? Is there any good to come out of deepfakes at all?
So yes, of course, happily deepfakes technology is also an opportunity for actually different sectors.
Okay.
For example, entertainment and marketing. So if we start with the entertainment,
sure.
So everyone has seen movies, of course.
Yeah.
And deepfake technology.
One every weekend.
One every weekend, great. So deepfake technology is an evolution of computer-generated imagery, or what we call CGI techniques. So they were used in post-production to actually swap actors' face on their doppelgangers.
Oh.
So it actually already been used for years. But deepfakes is, or let's say, a bit less costly and perhaps less difficult to do. So it's actually it's going to improve, what we can do on movies. A recent example of that comes from a French soap opera called Plus belle la vie.
Okay.
And they used deepfake to swap the face of an actress who could not make it to the scene because she was sick. She had the COVID-19.
What?
Yeah, and she could not reach the set, so they used a doppelganger, and then they just swapped her face on.
Wow.
Yeah. But of course, this technology already enabled movie makers to finish the shooting of different movies. You probably have seen Fast and Furious 7.
Oh, yeah.
So after the tragic death of Paul Walker, they had to use, similar techniques to...
I was wondering.
They shot the movies. Yeah, they shot the movies with his brothers.
Oh,
and then
okay.
they swap his face on, his brother's face.
I see. I was wondering how they managed to finish that movie, when this guy was, dead. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually so well made that it's almost impossible to tell, which scene has been made with the technology, which, so you see it's already actually pretty good. So it was similar techniques, but still. But of course, these examples raise, ethical question. For example, could deepfake replace real actors? So imagine if the technology starts to become so mainstream that we can use, use cheap actors.
I see what you're saying. Cheap. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then replace them by real like stars and famous actors. It could actually revolutionize the way film industry works.
I see.
The second question is to whom belongs the image of an actor? Especially after the person is death. Can the production do whatever he wants with it?
I see that there's a lot of lingering questions after.
Exactly.
I see.
So when we talk about entertainment, there are other, several examples we can give for, the positive usage of deepfake and voice cloning technology. So for example, everyone has seen filters and deepfake for fun in a creative ads,
Oh yeah.
There's also, imagine video games with very highly personalized avatars. You could be yourself.
Exactly. That'd be nice.
In the game. There's also, you can already listen to some of them. So there's also a real fake song. They are made from deceased, musicians and singers.
Really?
And you can listen to new music of the Rolling Stones or whatever, different ones. So that's pretty scary, right?
But that's also very interesting, and that begs the question. Today the world of marketing, they're always looking for the latest in technology to grab people's attention, to sell their products to people, stuff like that. So are there marketing related applications of deepfakes?
Yeah, actually, there are many of them. Let's focus on some of them because we can't talk about everything. But the first thing is, for example, it could reduce the ads production cost. So I'm going to show you this example. So you may have seen this ad. It was made for Just Eat. So in this video clip, you have Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is singing about the brand. So he's saying the thing about Just Eat, it's a great brand, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But at some point, the Australian sub-branch, which is called Menulog and not Just Eat, they wanted to use the same ad for its branch. The problem was that their name was different. They're called Menulog and not Just Eat.
Oh.
So they had to change the whole, lyrics and the lips movements of Snoop Dogg. So they had two choices: either, call the Snoop Dogg and ask him for, to
reshoot the whole thing. Yeah,
exactly. Or what they actually did, use deepfake and voice cloning to actually, to completely change the ad. And of course, it was cheaper than, had to redo the shot and everything.
So it's sort of becoming mainstream in the world of marketing then, deepfakes.
I wouldn't say mainstream. I think it's the beginning of something, and those will take the lead will probably have an advantage.
I see.
The second very good usage of deepfake, which could actually boost experiential marketing, is the ultra personalized ads.
I see.
Indeed, imagine how deepfake could enhance the realism of projection that we already have with virtual reality. So imagine if instead of seeing someone enjoying a hotel in Thailand, you could see yourself.
Wow. Like a very immersive experience then.
Yeah, you look at an ad online, and instead of seeing like this perfect model, walking on the beach, going to the
they
jacuzzi.
could show a fat Pratik on the beach.
they could, you could see yourself in the jacuzzi, chilling, and so that's actually a good way to help people project themselves, and of course, by experience.
Right.
But, it's also the bet made by a startup which is called Reactive Reality. So they're working on a technology to enable customers to swap their face and bodies onto model in clothing websites. All right.
Wow. Okay.
So instead of having, like random models wearing the dress, you could see yourself with your, like morphology.
Yeah. I have a question. I have some doubts there. I mean, when a model wears those clothes, they look really nice in them. If I wear those clothes and if I see myself, I don't think I'm going to buy them because they're not going to look as nice on me then. I don't think I'm going to buy them.
Okay, so perhaps
it might backfire.
Actually, it might backfire, but the bet here is that they believe that this would increase the sales because
for sure.
If you're a customer and you cannot, especially right now with the COVID situation, you cannot try on clothes on in shops. Imagine if instead of buying the clothes, wait for them to arrive at your place, then try them on, and then it doesn't fit. So they believe it could increase the sales because people will be able to see whether or not it's going to make it,
and lesser returns.
And lesser returns, which means
less logistics, less cost, all of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. So, okay, I see.
Yeah, there are positive outcomes of the technology. Of course, it could revolutionize marketing strategy, but one question remains: will company be legally obliged to tell their customers about the use of deepfake and everything?
Interesting. Yeah,
there's a last marketing
application,
which is I think very interesting. Our influencers and celebrity have a real impact on their fans and followers decisions, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think Kylie Jenner is the world's youngest billionaire. No, I mean
because they know exactly how to promote their products and how to influence their followers. Now imagine, and you know how Google Home and Alexa and all these virtual assistants are also influencing customer choice daily. Now imagine that instead of having Alexa talking to you, Kylie Jenner is talking to you. Oh. Imagine you can clone a voice and have her tell you, Pratik, you should go to this restaurant for lunch, you know? Pratik, what about going to Thailand to this hotel?
Yeah, conversion rates will definitely go, go through the roof then.
Yeah, and some, and you could configure it in a way that you choose which voice you want. And, like celebrities can sell, like license for their voice to be used. And so you see how everything could be, revolutionized.
Right. I remember reading something somewhere as for that, Holocaust survivors, because of the age, etc., they're now passing. And if I remember correctly, this technology was sort of being used to keep them alive forever. Is that, do you know anything about that?
Yes, Pratik, exactly. So this is an example called Dimension in Testimony Project. So it was designed to learn about Holocaust survivors from their own experience.
Okay.
So the idea was that, of course, survivors of the Holocaust are now old. Right?
Yeah.
They will soon be gone. So if they're gone, they won't be able to tell their
stories,
story and share. They won't be able to share their testimony. And as testimony is always a very good way to convey a message, the project used 3 technologies to enable visitors to discuss with survivors. So basically, you will be able to go to a museum, talk with an actor, and the actor would be swapped with the face of a survivor, and you will be able to talk about, his experience and ask him questions about what it was to be, in Auschwitz or.
I see. I'm gonna feel like I'm talking to the actual Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, and it will be in the shape of an hologram.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a fascinating conversation, Esper. Thank you so much. Prior to this video, I barely knew anything about deepfakes. I had seen a couple of videos on YouTube, but that's about it. You explained the process, you explained how accessible the technology is, the threats, the direct ones, the indirect ones. And, you also talked about the solutions, the stuff that, the government can do, technology companies can do, we as people can do. So thank you so much, Esper, for this, conversation. Our viewers, I hope you liked, what Esper shared in terms of, how you can use deepfakes, make deepfakes and stuff like that. If you have any questions on this technology, please feel free to reach out to Esper. I think, like I said, her LinkedIn name is Garance Caze. She's an expert on deepfake technology. She'd be more than happy to talk to you guys about this, right? Esper, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, of course, if you have any question, feel free to reach out. I hope you liked it because it doesn't require any, like specific skills or coding knowledge to understand the topic. And I think we're living in a world where social media made fake news and news in general explode. And I think the fake is actually really, really actual topic. So I hope you like it, and I hope you learned something.
Well, so that brings us to the end of episode 1 of Conversations with Interesting People. I'll be back again soon with another interesting person, and we'll talk about another interesting topic. And thank you, Esper, for being my first guest on this show. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye. 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 Thank you.